Um, Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge a point that one of our men brought up on our previous live. He mentioned people having different paths or journeys. I just want to say that, however, there are other journeys, of course, but however, this journey that we are focused on is one towards wealth. On each panel, we discuss the many layers of a healthy relationship. And I just want everyone to keep in mind that this journey requires and strives off of both partners' willingness and the willingness to be intentionally healthy. And it cannot and will not work when one partner is toxic or unhealthy. So I just wanted to start off with that. This way we're acknowledging, one of our men's thoughts from the previous live to start this one off. Does anyone want to follow up with any thoughts on what I just shared? Or we're pretty much all good on that?
Yeah, I'm good on that.
I'm good.
All right, so today's topic is the man's/woman's purpose or full potential. And the first question that I'm gonna give out there to our panel is, what do you believe a woman's full potential is?
That's a tough one for me to answer. I'm not sure what a woman's full potential looks like because I'm speaking from the perspective of a man. But if I'm speaking in terms of my preference, the ideal woman would be one that multiplies what's given to her, who can turn a house into a home, who can take care of the stuff behind the scenes or the bigger picture for the whole of the family. I know that's vague, but there's not really like a specific thing I can say to that because I'm not speaking from the female perspective.
Definitely. We get that. We just want to hear from our men what they expect or want from us for us to reach our full potential. So, I mean, if you leave out anything, I'm sure me or Kia will touch on anything that we don't talk or would that you don't say, but you guys pretty much do nail most of the points on the head. Ben, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I agree with Cam as usual. I think other than that, I would just say that a lot of times the full potential male, full potential female kind of have some overlaps in terms of what we look for, right? Like, you want somebody that's going to be just as hard a worker as you, whether she is working in the home or whether she has a job and she's working outside the home, maybe it's running a business. You want someone that along with you wants to make the house a home. Because you don't want to just come home and she's doing all the work with making, with raising the children. You want to be a part of the raising of the children and making sure that your presence is felt and not just seen. So I think, I think a lot of those things will start to overlap when it comes to certain things. I think that the differences, while there are some, they're pretty few.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree with both what Ben and Cam said. I wrote down a list of things because I think that we all need to start talking about what the full potential of a woman is, as much as we're also talking about the full potential of a man. So I'm just gonna read off a few of the ones that I wrote down that I felt were like essential in a relationship. A woman should nurture her family, take care of her family with her husband. That's kind of like the overlapping thing that Ben mentioned. Because I feel like men also nurture, men also take care of the family, right? We get some help from the man. Of course, like it could be our main role and it might be something that you guys come home to. But it's still very important for men to do these things as well. Also, like rearing the children, submitting to their husband. As a woman, it is our nature as females to require that we are required to have a certain amount of submission to our men. What do you guys feel as far as like submission?
I think we need to take the stigma out of that because a lot of people see submission and say, oh my God, I'm going to be subjugated. I'm going to be a slave. That is not what submission is. That is not what submission is at all. As a matter of fact, submission is more so an interdependence on the family, where the man is submitting as well. You're submitting your time, you're submitting your body when you're working for your family, you're submitting your money to take care of the family, you're submitting your patience when you're dealing with your family. There's a lot that the man is also submitting. So submitting is more so an interdependence than a dependence upon one or the other. What submission, in my ideal sense, looks like for the woman is listening to her man without having to be a slave to her man. You don't have to be a slave to your man. Um, any man who is trying to lead a successful family is going to seek counsel from his woman, and that counsel is going to lead the family into a good direction. But there should be a sense of willingness to listen. That willingness to listen is that submission.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think, like you said at the start, dealing with the stigma of the word submission. I think a lot of people, a lot of women have trouble, and some men have trouble with the word submission because of poor examples of people in relationships. You know, men who have taken advantage of women who are submissive, women, you know, kind of being walked all over. You know, we've seen it in movies, we've seen it in life, where men have been abusive physically, emotionally. So when people say, you know, submit, there's a lack of trust there for the there's a lack of trust for a man in that position, in a position of authority over a woman. They automatically assume that he's going to be like this man that I've seen in the movie, this man that I've experienced in life, the stories that I've heard about men being abusive. That's the automatic thought process. But I think having stuff like this, where we can show men who are in positions of authority with their wives, and showing how that is healthy. Because like he says, it's not like I'm walking all over my wife, but I do seek her for counsel. I do get you know, her ideas, her thoughts, and I appreciate those. I value those. And it's not like, oh, I just wanted to see what you thought. I'm still going to do what I want to do. I'm seeking it because maybe I don't know. Maybe I am confused. Maybe you just know this particular arena better than I do. So I think that a wise, okay, go to the bathroom. Being a father is a part of that, all of that. So my kids are going to do what they do. But anyway, yeah. So I think that just getting rid of that stigma and showing men who are doing it right is important, and also showing women who are submissive and don't feel like they're being walked all over, and don't feel like they are you know, second class citizens in their family, and saying, no, I submit to my husband and I feel safe with that. I think that's important as well.
Yeah, we definitely had a woman come on and explain in one of our previous lives that submission is what made her feel stronger in her relationship, and gave her more of the power in her relationship. So she said, like, submission wasn't a weak thing. It was actually like, you know, gaining some type of power in her relationship by being able to kind of relieve herself from unnecessary things that her man could, you know, give her or give her family. And she could take that back role and have control of other aspects of the relationship. I think sometimes women think submitting makes them weak and allows for men to control them. And you had mentioned earlier the walking all over. We actually had a previous live where a woman actually spoke about how she didn't submit because she felt like that was giving men the opportunity, or people in general, the opportunity to walk all over her. And she wanted to not allow that. So she had to keep the strong woman persona going on to protect herself from the fears of being walked all over. And that's why when we talk about this and when we started off, I mentioned like, this does not work without healthy people. Like, you have to be healthy, your spouse has to be healthy. And if he isn't, those fears are very real. And we do understand and acknowledge that those are real fears for some women. But that's the point of intentionally dating healthy people. So just to go a little bit further,
Can I
I
just
do.
say
Go
on
ahead.
that
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say on that point, if they're not healthy, that's okay. Are they seeking getting healthy? Right. So are they surrounding themselves with healthy people, or do they have, you know, I don't know about Cam, but I have older men that I surround myself with for wisdom. And do they have, do they have, you know, are they looking into getting therapy if they need it? I think those are important too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I seek counsel from older men as well, only because they've been through what I'm going through. So if I ever need to know how I need to deal with something, if I can't go to my wife for counsel, if I can't go to my peers, then I go to my elders.
Right. And that's the important thing about just having healthy male figures surrounding us, whether that be in your adulthood or whether that be in your childhood. Just intentionally having those healthy male role models around to influence our children in positive directions, and of course to keep us going in a positive direction. I want to get into a little bit about domestication, right? What are the roles that women should hold in that aspect to reach their full potential?
I think a lot of that comes with that conversation that you have initially with your partner. Because there's some women who do not seek to do the domestication thing, where they do not want to clean kitchens, they do not want to clean bathrooms. So they'll offer to do something else in exchange for that task.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of what that conversation looks like. So if the woman is going to be in the house and she isn't going to work, then that housework aspect should fall to her, taking care of the family, taking care of the cleaning and all that other stuff. Now, as she picks up more tasks and alleviates that task from the man, okay, now you need to step in and fill in those gaps. So if your woman is working outside the house, now you have to clean some of these dishes. You got to clean these bathrooms. You can't get both, where she's doing all that work and she's taking care of the kids and taking care of the house, and you working the same amount of time, but she's doing all the housework. That doesn't work.
Right.
So if that domestication piece isn't discussed, that's where you're going to have some of these issues. But if the more tasks she starts to take on, the more you got to fill in those gaps.
Right. I definitely agree with you on that, because I would like to say that, like, if your man isn't at his full potential when it comes to being a provider and you do have to step in and help provide for your family, that, yeah, and in that situation, it does cause for, you know, to split some of the domesticated roles as far as cooking and cleaning and just giving her a hand with some things if she has to go to work. Now, if she chooses to go to work and you're able to provide for the family, now where does that domesticate, like, now where does that lie? Like, do you still split it, or is it like, what do you guys think?
In my opinion, if it's where she is choosing to work, if she doesn't necessarily have to work,
Yeah.
then as long as the work that she's doing doesn't interfere with the house, then that's cool. But you still got to hold up your end of the bargain because he's holding up his. Now you're choosing to work. You don't have to. So there are still some things you have to do on the back end, but you can't choose these extracurricular activities and not take care of your schoolwork. You gotta do it all. Student athlete, it's the same thing when
If you're
you're right, when you're a wife or a husband. It's the same thing. Like, you can't take care of the extracurriculars and not take care of your basics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And again, that's not just something that's for the woman, that's for the man as well. We're not doing extracurricular stuff if we're not taking care of home. So again, that's one of those things that overlaps. So yeah, I agree with Cam as far as, you know, her, if we've had that conversation, her first responsibility is to the home. And if she decides to go to work, you know, you still have that responsibility. I will help, you know, if this is like, if you're in a career where this is a passion of yours, and you want to continue to pursue it even after marriage and kids, that's fine. I will assist in allowing you to, you know, pursue that. But I think at the end of the day, home is where it is. It makes no sense, just practically, to be great outside of your home and your children, you know, hate you because you're never home, or, you know, we're having problems with the kids because they miss mom, and dad is at work all the time and he's doing his best, you know. So I think, in that case, that definitely a conversation needs to be had. And if after a while you're starting to see that this isn't going to work, we need to sit down and have another conversation and figure out what's going to be best for the family, not just for me, not just for you, but for the whole family.
With a woman, say there's the situation, this is kind of rewinding a little bit. You guys went a little ahead before I got my question in, but if the woman is the provider, right, and the father or husband choose to be a stay-at-home body, do you still think it possible for the woman to submit to her other half in that scenario?
I would say, yeah, if she chooses to. I know a couple now, they have kids. The father is a stay-at-home father, but he's not just a stay-at-home father. He's actually started like a YouTube business and is like making money, but he's just literally just recording himself being a dad. So I think there's definitely room for her to still submit, if she chooses to. But I think personally, the issue becomes that old mentality of I'm independent, I don't need a man, can kind of have if this was her personality prior to, I think that can kind of rear its ugly head again, especially when we're looking at stay-at-home dad, and to her seemingly he's doing nothing, because I think men do this. Seemingly he's doing nothing all day, and you're coming home making all the money and he's just doing nothing all day playing with the kids. You know, I think that can kind of cause an issue. But I think for the most part, if that's a conversation that we've had, then we can then I think that a woman can do that if she chooses to. If she chooses not to, then we have a whole nother problem. We may need to talk about counseling.
You guys mentioned about obviously submitting to a healthy individual. One of our members had asked a question of how can you, as a woman, tell when a man is actually being sincere and genuine within his approach to you? Like, as a man, what kind of signs would you tell a woman to look for? That way, like, if she's engaging with someone, like, you know what, I think I could see myself, you know, submitting to this person. I think I could see myself in a healthy relationship with this person. Like, what are some signs that you should look for to, like, say, hey, this is a good thing, or signs that you look at and say, hey, this is not where I need to be right now?
Well, the first thing you need to look for is making sure that not only is he being who he says he is, but he is sticking to what he is telling you. Now, if he's saying he's going to do something and he doesn't follow through, you can collect that red flag if you want to, or you can say, hey, all right, maybe this isn't for me. And a lot of that comes from this old, oh, well, you got to be a ride or die. And you just keep on taking it. You could collect those red flags, or you could stop collecting red flags and decide that you want an actual partner. So make sure that he is sticking to what he is telling you he's going to do. Also, see what his family dynamic is. Anybody who isn't dealing with their family they're the problem. Most of the time, they are the problem. If he's not dealing with his entire family, you need to look into that immediately, because if he can't foster those relationships when things get tough, he's not going to be able to foster your relationship when things get tough. You also need to make sure, you need to see where his patience level is. If he's one of those people who snap at everything, you may not want to get into a long relationship with this person, because usually that is gradual, and chances are he's going to get worse over time if he doesn't seek counsel or hold himself accountable. And he has to hold himself accountable. And if he cannot take critique without looking at it as an attack, you need to get away from that man. Get away from him. If he's looking at accountability as an attack, that's because he doesn't hold himself accountable. And if he can't hold himself accountable, how is he going to lead a family?
Yeah, absolutely.
I needed you like 10 years ago.
Absolutely. I definitely, Cam, that was on the money, man. I think especially that accountability piece, man. I think look at who his mentors are. Who does he look up to? Is there somebody that if he's like flying off the handle that you can call and you know that person is going to get him to calm down? If he doesn't have anybody like that, I think that's a good sign that he's not going to be any good for you. I think, yeah, I agree with the family thing. What else would I say? What are his pursuits? What is he pursuing? Is he pursuing anything? And then if he is pursuing something, what are those things? And how do you feel about those things? Do you feel like this is something that's worth pursuing? And maybe it may not be to you. And if it's not to you, then you don't want to stay with somebody if he's pursuing something that you don't think is worth pursuing. Whether that's, if he's saying, I just want to be, the manager at McDonald's, then, that's a pursuit, you may not want to stick around for. But if he's eyeing that position, for another position, because everybody's not going to be a business owner. There are going to be people that just climb the corporate ladder. And if he's saying, I'm pursuing, becoming a, McDonald's manager so that I can move up the ranks and one day own a franchise, then, then you might want to stick around, and not just write him off because he works at McDonald's. So I think ask about him. Ask his friends, ask his family members, because, if you're dating somebody, that's usually a thing that you do. You bring them around friends and family. Ask them about him. Tell them about a situation, that may have happened, like that kind of threw you off, and kind of get their perspective on it. This is something my wife told me she did with my friends. I think also, like I said, asking family members about him, getting those stories, sitting with mom and getting those stories from when he was younger, because that can kind of give you a glimpse of what kind of person he is. Yeah.
I had this conversation with Crystal the other day, and probably a few times I've mentioned this to her, because, as you get older, hindsight is 20/20, you learn more, you like, okay, I understand a little better. And I can agree to that, like what you guys said about interviewing the family, because I can attest to that. Like my previous marriage, I went in with great intentions because I grew up in a household with, seeing that dynamic of a relationship, seeing the teamwork and, how they treated each other. And my previous marriage, like I said, he didn't have those examples. But because of my youth, my young mind, being naive, I'm like, no, this is what it could be like. And I had to learn, like, sometimes some people, not everyone, but some people get to an age where there's really no fixing that. Like it's because it's so many layers of trauma and bad examples that they can't seem to cut through it, especially if they don't want to. And now going forward in my current situation, him and I coming from similar backgrounds, it's a vast difference. Like it's really healthy and it's honest communication. And we're adulting. We're being adults about things. Like I'm not entertaining unhealthy emotions, toxic behaviors, and I made a mistake. And I'm one to admit that, like, my first choice wasn't my best choice, but I learned from it. I learned a lot from it. And I must say that family dynamic is dead on, because his family was very toxic. And, you know, and I realized from a conversation I overheard many years ago, the woman who raised him as his mother, because his mother wasn't around, I heard her actually tell him, like, you may not never be anything. And as a mother, I'm like, why would you tell your child that? You know, and I'm thinking to myself, well, if this person's been living like this for the first 30 years of their lives or whatever, there's really nothing I can do at this point. Like, because I would basically like be raising a man, and that's not my job either. You know, there has to be a fine line between helping a person heal and get to that point, and then trying to be what they should have had a long time ago. And I think a lot of women fall into that trap when we meet guys thinking we can fix them, and no, we can't. Just step away, huge red flag.
Yeah.
It's hard to undo a year of trauma. Now imagine having to undo 30 years of trauma.
Right.
Like, they have calcified their brain to this idea of what normal is. And then when actual normal comes around, it's foreign to them.
Right.
So they grow up in a environment where hate is their normal. And then when love is introduced, they don't know how to accept that. So they push that away and welcome in what they've always had as normal. So that's scary, but it's true. It's real.
Absolutely. I think to add on to what I was saying earlier, I think also bring them around your parents, because, you know, if you have assuming you have a good relationship with your parents know you, and they know you well enough to know this person isn't going to work out. And even though I know we have a tendency to rebel against our parents, but your parents know you, and they know, they've been around the block. They're, 30 years, 40 years, your senior. They know, when something is good and when something isn't. Something that I've been stressing to my kids, I know more than you. I know more than you. I've been here a lot longer than you. So I know these friends of yours, these people you're bringing around, they're no good for you. I know your personality, and I know what you can take and what you can't. I remember two perfect scenarios actually in regards to this. I was dating a girl, and she brought me to her house to meet her mom and everything. And after I left, she called me and was telling me, what her mom thought of me and things like that. And she said, I think he's a great guy, but I don't think he's for you. She said that, and at the time she was absolutely right when she said this, but she said that he's been hurt a lot. And this is, probably not a good time for him to be dating. So she was on point. Obviously that relationship didn't work out. When I was dating my now wife and I was contemplating proposing, I remember having a conversation with my mom, and my mom saying, no, this is a great idea. I think she's great for you. And just giving me a list of reasons why. So I think bringing them around your parents. Your parents will give you some insight that you might not see right in the midst of that blinded by love bliss you're in.
In my personal situation, I didn't see much of that growing up. So I grew up in a pretty, I don't want to say toxic, but it definitely wasn't a healthy environment growing up myself. And my wife came from that upper middle class, 2 parents in the house. They have that dynamic. So also her bringing me to her house showed me what that dynamic is supposed to look like and gave me something to strive for. So even if you don't want to give up on somebody who isn't ideal right away, bringing them into that example and showing them an example can give them something to strive for as well. But they have to be willing to do the work. And I had to do a lot of work to undo what I had already learned, to learn what a healthy partner looks like to a wife, and what it means to be a husband and what it means to handle that responsibility, because I had to take that on, and I saw my wife's father handle his household the way he handled it, and I learned what to do and what not to do when I'm running my household.
Right. Okay, so now that we're here, I feel like we're already gearing it towards a man's purpose or a husband's purpose in a relationship. So I want to get into more detail of what a man's purpose is in a relationship, and I want to just add this question to go along with that. Should a man carry some of the load in the relationship or majority of the load?
I think I need some clarity on that. What load are we talking about?
The responsibilities or the role in the relationship, the purpose in that relationship. Should it be, well, this is a trigger, so I hate saying it, but should the load be 50-50? Should it be 80-20? Like what, like I don't want to trigger anyone, but I wanted to ask the question without saying that part. But yeah, should a man be trying to split the load, or should he be carrying majority of the load, or how should that exactly?
Are we talking about the financial load, or are we talking about?
I think all of it, not financial. That's why when I say 50-50, I feel like, because I think the misconception in the 50-50 dynamic, even though it's a trigger for everyone, and I'm sorry everybody out there that I'm triggering, it's not 50-50 of a relationship is not just financial. A relationship is not just financial. Mm-hmm. We talked about the purpose of a woman just now, and it did not entail financial. We actually said that if she chooses to work and provide financially, that could be her choice, but she doesn't have to, unless of course, her spouse needs help in that moment. Of course, she can work, and then we'll split the other, responsibilities in the house. I got that. But in a relationship, should it be 50-50 roles where she does 50% of the roles and you do 50% of the roles, and that entails all the roles: the household, the finances, the rearing the children, the taking care of your spouse, the making lunch, the eating healthy, all of it? Should it be split 50-50, or should the man carry majority of the load?
I think based on that, given that in context, I think it can vary. I think there are going to be times where the man is doing it all, and I think there are going to be times where the wife is doing it all. I think, yeah, absolutely, because I like even now, perfect example, my wife is pregnant. She's not cooking all the time. She's it's just not happening. She's not always dealing with the kids. It's not happening. I'm working. I come home. I got to deal with the kids. I got to get everybody, ready for bed. I got to cook dinner. I got to do all of that stuff because she's, she's making the baby. So seasons change. I may, lose. We just had a pandemic. I lost my job in the pandemic. My wife had to step up. So, it varies. So I can't say, for sure, like it's always going to be this way, just because, life.
I think when we're discussing ideally, though, and not the unfortunate circumstances, ideally, how should the relationship look? Let's say everything's smooth sailing. Maybe she gets pregnant. Maybe that is something that happens, but
I just feel like I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is that it's not realistic. It's always going to be, there's always going to be something, right? That pops up, that changes the way the relationship is. If you want to start a certain way, and assuming, say the man has the job, he's making the money, I think, he takes on the bulk of the load, but in terms of, providing, protecting, and, caring for the family, I think he takes the lead. Yeah, I wouldn't say load. I think he would take the lead, and how things go with his family, deciding, are we gonna homeschool, or are we gonna put the kids in school? Are we going to, what religion are we? What are we, what are we planning for the future? What's the goal for this year? What are we putting in place? Are the kids going to be a part of soccer? Are they going to do baseball? Are they going to do ballet? those are things I think the man should be taking the lead on, discussing with his wife, and what she can handle, because she may be like, we've got just the one kid. I can handle taking them to soccer, taking them to all of this stuff. She may say we don't, or we don't have any kids, so we just we'll both just go to work and make money. So it all depends on where your starting point is.
And I think historically, men have taken the bulk of the load, and to an extent, it's still there, where you're expected to provide for the family, you're expected to protect the family, and you also have to be able to lower that guard and be emotional with your family and be present with your family. I don't think the expectation of being able to flip that switch is so much on the woman, where she's automatically expected to be the nurturer and all this other stuff. And to a certain extent, in certain households, she has to be a provider as well. But the automatic assumption is that she is a nurturer at all times, where the man is supposed to be this grisly, take care of the house mentality, and be Winnie the Pooh also. Like that's tough. That's tough. Having to be able to flip that switch whenever it's needed. So I would say that the bulk would fall on the man because of the level of expectations there. And am I saying this right? Absolutely not. But it's the reality, where we expect these things because of our social norms, but it isn't. That's where those expectations are. I think that the man, with his woman helping him provide, should be alleviating her as he steps up throughout the world. And if they have that conversation and that works for the woman and she wants to go and work and take care of everything, then that means it works the other way around. So like Ben said, it can go, everybody has a different season. And if you run into a situation, ideally, the man is supposed to be able to take care of it. But depending on your situation, you may be the one falling back and she may be taking care of that.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree with you on that one. All right, this is going to be our last question. I'm not sure if this is going to take us off on a tangent a little bit, but the last question, it was mostly geared towards a specific situation, but it was, why does some Black men feel unwanted by Black women, and why do some successful Black women feel unwanted by Black men? We'll just start with the first question. Why do some Black men feel unwanted by Black women?
I'm not sure that that's a real thing. There may be some dudes that feel like, oh, well, the sisters aren't checking for me, but are you presentable to the sisters? And if you aren't doing what the sisters need you to do, then chances are they're not going to be checking for you. I mean, I don't know what else to say there. I've never had that problem. I've never had that problem.
I've never come across that. So what I have come across is the nice guy hood dude situation, where there are good Black dudes who are doing well for themselves, but they may be a little corny, a little nerdy.
There you go.
And the Black girl says, I don't want him. So she goes to do I hate using like the Black names, but she goes to the next Black dude who's in the hood doing dirt, going in and out of jail. So I definitely see that, but I don't see them leaving. I don't see Black women leaving Black men altogether. I think I see more of that from Black men, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, because even then she's not checking for that Black man and checking for another Black man. It's not really where the sisters are jumping ship. They're trying to figure out why the brothers ain't stepping up to be what I need you to be.
Mm-hmm. So that goes into the second part of the question. Why do some successful Black women feel unwanted by Black men?
I think a lot of it is intimidation. especially, you know, somebody that's not like, you know, when we say successful, I'm thinking, you know, 6 figures and above. So I think a lot of Black men aren't making 6 figures and above for, you know, several reasons. So I think that's partially a part of the problem. She's not in the sphere where there are many Black men. I think also men, period, when you reach a certain level and you're exposed to the world. Perfect example is my wife's uncle. He played basketball professionally, and he loves Black women. Loves his mom. No issues with his mom or his sisters. But he married somebody that wasn't Black. And it wasn't like an animosity thing towards Black women. He just happened to fall in love with somebody that wasn't Black. So I think that being open to like the world, or kind of your eyes being open, that is more than just my community and my people in this world that I can fall in love with. I think that may for men and for women be kind of a thing, a reason why they're not pursuing Black women that are on their level success wise. But again, I also think that men can be intimidated by the expectations. When you're a woman and you're successful, they can they'll look at you and say, well, or maybe they'll assume that you'll have certain expectations from him that he may not be able to deliver on without breaking the bank. And then he may try you, and you may look at him and look at what he drives and make assumptions about him and his pursuits and things like that. So I think that I think it's twofold. It's not just the men that don't want you. I think it's the men that do want you. You won't give them time because they may not be on your level success-wise.
Or you could just say the trigger word, you won't be willing to submit to them because you feel like you don't need him.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of brothers, from what I've seen and what I've experienced, they want a woman that's going to submit, and depending on the relationship between him and his mother, he assumes that future women will be just like his mother. So if their relationship is crazy, he's not going to look for women that look like him or look like her. He's going to be looking for women that are outside of that because they're more docile or things like that. There are also other things that tie into it. Like I saw a meme recently where a woman said to be a woman, and it listed all of these charges that she has to pay. I got to pay for my bundles. I got to pay for somebody to put them in. I got to pay for my nails. I got to pay for this. It came up to like $950. And every brother underneath the post was like, guess I'm dating a white woman. Guess I'm dating a white woman. Guess I'm dating a white woman.
Oh, yes, I definitely sent that post to Kia.
Why?
Like, bro.
Why do you think that is?
Like, bro, there are ways around that, bro. Like, my brothers.
Let me see if I can.
I really like that comment because, I think the other day a comment like this came up again about some men was like, I don't like women with the weaves. And I asked, like, when you say weave, what are you talking, all weave or specifically, a certain look? And I mean, it ties into what kind of woman a man prefers. I'll use that word. Their preference. And then it also falls into the category of women saying, well, this is my body and I do what I want. I don't do it for you. And then that kind of trickles into people questioning, well, if you love yourself, how come you haven't learned to love your natural self, like your natural look? And it's just so many layers to that aspect. Like, I don't even think this is a good time to even start that conversation.
that's definitely a rabbit hole, but I'm just gonna say this and touch on it real quick. I don't really care what a woman, my wife, does with her hair. Like, just do it. Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be out here looking crazy. You know what I'm saying? If you choose to wear makeup, cool. Don't look like, you know, Homie the Clown. You know, if you choose not to wear makeup, cool. You know what I mean? It doesn't really bother me what you do with your hair, or what you put in your hair, what you don't put in your hair, as long as it's done and you're happy with it and you're doing it because you feel good about it. Because I'm gonna do what I want to do with my hair, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna dress how I want to dress, like, and feel comfortable. Like, you should do the same. So I definitely, like, dudes that say, "Oh, I don't want a woman that wear weave." Okay, cool. It's women out here that don't wear weave. But don't get a woman that wears weave and then tell her don't wear weave.
Yep, there you go.
Woo.
There you go. You got natural lashes. Why are you paying $180 to get lashes? Why are we doing this?
And what's $35? Where you getting your eyebrows done? Oh my God.
South Raw Indian, $350. Like, what are we talking about here?
And how often do you have to do a Brazilian wax?
Right, that might be a whole nother conversation.
Do we need to have a Brazilian?
I think maybe once a month. I think you have to go every month at least. I think it lasts a month.
Like, damn, can we get a Panamanian? Like, we gotta.
Let's just get a Dominican.
Right, can we get a Colombian? Like, is there a discount?
Whoa.
I'm trying to be professional and I can't. Y'all are hilarious.
I mean, shit.
$180 for lashes. I mean,
for lashes.
You know, I think a lot of women do have the mindset of saying, "Hey," she said
copy that.
That's more accurate. That's a little more accurate. Do your own hair. You don't have to have a hair appointment.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Man.
Y'all see the low maintenance?
Yes.
Yo.
That you don't need a hair appointment. Okay, y'all do see it.
Let's start somewhere.
Do your own hair, sis. Do your own hair. Get those natural products. You know, do what you gotta do.
You know what I think it is? That you have some women who do it because it's easier. You have some women who do it because they really don't. Like, I know women that don't even know their natural hair texture. Like, they don't know. And they don't even want to know. Like, they're afraid to let go of the creamy crack. And I'm like, but you just assumed your hair would be this type instead of treating your hair and watching it flourish for what it is. And, you know, I don't know if it's a society thing, if it's just passed down, you know, because you want to, what I realized, I used to wear, I guess in a sense, protective styles because I have a lot of hair, and sometimes I don't feel like doing my hair because it's a lot of work. It takes me like 2 hours just to wash it. It's too much. But I stopped wearing the protective hairstyles mostly because I have daughters, and it got to a point my daughters felt like, oh, I have to have a weave or this in my hair to be pretty. And I'm like, wait, that's not the message that I want to send to my daughters. Like, wait a minute, hold on. So now I got a daughter who has two daughters that got long hair like me. I got a daughter, she has a short, like a
bob.
No, not a bob. Like an
afro, a poof.
Yeah, like a little poof thing. And you know, she's dark too. So like I focus a lot on my self-imagery and how it reflects on my daughters, because I don't want my daughters growing up to think, oh, I'm not pretty. I have to look like this. I look like this. Like, you should see me at Halloween time. When they be asking me, I'm like, no, you're not going to be this because you don't look like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't want them to think that this is how they have to be. So although at moments it seems extreme, like, oh, mommy's not letting me do this, And I do want them to still be children, but not the expense that they question their own beauty. And I think a lot of women, they never been taught to embrace their natural hair, their natural this. So they don't know how to deal with it. They just know, I got to have my hair straight, because nappy's not the way to go. And I seen somewhere, I had just spent like $150 on some hair products. Don't ask me why. But a woman asked, she said, why is our hair 4C? Like, who came up with this? Like, how is our hair 4C and not 1A and vice versa, you know? So I do think that it's deeper than just the surface with most people.
Right.
That's the topic for another day. Sorry.
I can go in, I'm raising daughters, man, so I can go in about that topic.
Right, that goes into the intentional parenting, which I definitely want to have a whole nother separate live where we talk about intentional parenting. I know me and Cameron was discussing that, was that yesterday or the day before? So that's a whole other topic. But just to bring this one full circle, right, back to where we were, I would say that just to wrap up a woman's full potential, I know we went into a man's full potential for a little bit, but the feminine beauty does come into that, right? So I think it is part of a woman's full potential to do things to make sure she's being feminine and enhancing her feminine beauty, whatever that might look like for her, without getting too like fake. I know a lot of men aren't into all the like extra layers of makeup and eyelashes and all this other like the necessities on that list. Well, not the necessities, but the extra stuff on that list isn't a necessity. But if you have the wealth to pay for all of that, then, you know, more power to you. In the meantime, you might want to be the low maintenance one until you stack up some beans. But yeah, feminine beauty is also something that women do have to be mindful of when reaching their full potential. So I don't want to leave that out. That is really important. And we don't want any woman to feel like we're saying that you don't have to worry about that. That is very important. And I think men, I think you guys can chime in on this and just say that you guys do actually care about your woman just keeping up her image and her feminine beauty.
Oh, yeah. And my wife made it abundantly clear I am going to do what I want to do with my hair. So we compromised, and I said, could we do more of a natural look? And
100%.
she decided to do the chop. She went natural, and now she's been natural ever since. And now she like tries to get a lot of her friends to go natural because she sees the benefits of being natural. Now it's a lot. It's a lot of work, but she made that commitment because she saw how much it bothered me, and I let her know all the time I appreciate her making that compromise, because I wanted our daughters to know that they don't have to fry your hair to be beautiful.
Right.
There are different ways you can present your hair to look beautiful.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I agree with that. My wife, you know, she went natural before we got together, and her guy she was dating before me kind of made her feel bad about going natural. So she would put in straight weaves in her hair and all of that stuff, and he liked it. She got with me, she started to feel more and more comfortable, you know, with the natural look. And, you know, even when we got married, she had the dope fro hawk going, and I love that stuff, man. And my girls see that, and it matters that their mom you know, looks good and is beautiful, dresses up, you know, when she can, and does her hair naturally in, you know, in its natural state. She's not, because I think especially with Disney, but we're gonna get into that. But let me just say this. With Disney, you know, seeing all these white girls, you know, get into Prince, and they got this long, you know, golden, you know, flowing hair, and then you like, you know, well, what's wrong with my hair? Why can't I, you know, am I going to be able to get a Prince if I don't look like that? So I think seeing mom look amazing, you know, and, you know, seeing me love her, that helps. And yeah. So she, you know, she gets her eyebrows done, certain things she tries to do on her own. So it's definitely important to me. I don't want her looking crazy.
Definitely not. I think we can all agree on here that men appreciate, most men, I think, I don't know if I'm wrong with that, you guys can correct me, but I think most men appreciate natural beauty. And it does go into intentionally parenting as well, because it sets the stage for your children appreciating their natural beauty. So it does help for a woman to embrace her natural beauty, and it is a healthy approach when it comes to parenting and in your relationship. But I think we're going to end it here. Thank you guys all for joining. I'm just going to let you guys have some final words. Cam, if you want to say anything before we log off, now's your opportunity.
All right. So going back to my last point with the men not looking for the black women, that actually comes full circle. So in closing, when a man has knowledge of self and he understands that there's power in himself, he seeks out things that look like him. So if he's not checking for sisters that look like him, chances are he doesn't have that knowledge of oneself. So sisters, when you see a man who says, I don't date black women, I don't do this, I don't do that, chances are he needs to work on his inner self first anyway, and that's not the type of guy you want to get anyway. So be powerful, stay strong, stay queenly, fix your crown. Brothers, stay strong, stay protective, stay providing.
I think the guy, because the reason why we mentioned that, it wasn't more or less that the person who brought this to our attention didn't want to be with a black woman. He just felt like black women weren't interested in him. But we can go into that in another live as well, because we'd like to bring somebody on that has a similar situation to that can kind of go into more depths on that. Whereas us, we don't really have much to say on it because we didn't experience it ourselves. But I'm going to let Ben have his closing remarks, and then we're going to wrap this up. Thank you.
Yeah, this is for I guess the ladies. I would just say this. I think because me and Cam kind of have a similar story in terms of having nothing and you know, making some decisions that changed our lives for the women in our lives. Don't assume that because he doesn't have much when you get with him that he won't do what's needed to change that in pursuit of you. There are some men that will never change, but there are some men that if you get with them, the right woman will change their entire life. We've seen that time and time again. You know, LeBron James is a success, and he's with the woman that he was with from jump. He had nothing when he got with her. So I think to keep that in mind. So don't. Not saying lower your standards, but don't shy away from guys that may not look the part right now.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. We really do appreciate all your wisdom and words that you guys are sharing, your experiences. It's much appreciated. And thank you guys all for viewing this live. If you view it later or you're viewing it now, thank you. We really do appreciate your participation and commenting on the videos.
I appreciate y'all for this conversation.
Thank you, guys.
All right, y'all
Bye,
take
guys.
it easy.
See you next time.
And
And always
keep it feminine.